The funeral home in Savannah, Georgia smelled like lilies and cold air conditioning, and I remember thinking that my father would have hated both. Walter Kessler was a man who liked the smell of sawdust and diesel, not flowers. He'd built Kessler Marine Supply from a single dock warehouse into a business worth $40 million, and he'd done it with hands that never stopped moving, even at 73, even with a heart that had finally given out on a Tuesday morning while he was checking inventory. I was standing near the casket when my sister Renata touched my elbow. "We need to talk about the will," she said. "Not I'm sorry for your loss. Not can you believe he's gone. Just business," delivered in that flat, efficient tone she used when she wanted something and didn't want to seem like she wanted it. "After the funeral, Ren," I said. "The reading's Thursday." Cole set it up. Cole was her husband, a man who'd spent 15 years managing family investments that never seemed to generate statements anyone else could see. I should have known then. I didn't. Thursday came. The lawyer's office was on Bull Street, 3rd floor, brass nameplate that read Harlan P. Voss EQ. My father had used Voss for 30 years. Every contract, every property deal, every handshake that needed paper behind it. Voss was 71 himself, silver-haired, the kind of old Southern lawyer who still wore a pocket watch and meant it. He set a folder on the desk between me and Renata. "Your father's will, executed 8 months ago," he said, "leaves the company, the properties and the investment accounts, totaling approximately $31 million, divided as follows." He read it. 60% to Renata. 40 to me. No explanation. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't argue. I'd spent the last 6 years building marinas on the coast while Renata stayed close to Dad, ran his errands, sat with him at doctor's appointments. Maybe he'd rewarded proximity. Fine. I could live with 40% of $31 million. Except something in Voss's face didn't match his voice. He kept glancing at Renata like a man watching a hand of cards he already knew was crooked. "There's a signature verification issue," he said finally. "I'd like to run an analysis before we file for probate." "That's absurd," Renata snapped. "I was in the room when he signed it." "Then you won't mind the analysis," Voss said, and something in his calm made her go very still. I didn't sleep that week. I drove past the old warehouse on Coffee Bluff, the one Dad used to take me to as a kid, and sat in my truck looking at the water, trying to remember the last real conversation we'd had. 3 weeks before he died, actually. He'd called me at 11 at night, which he never did. "I changed some things, Danny," he'd said. "I want you to hear it from me before anyone else tells you different." "Changed what, Dad?" "The will. Voss has the new one. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise." I'd assumed he meant something small. A boat, a piece of land. I hadn't pushed. That was the last time I heard his voice. Voss called me in 2 weeks later, alone. "Danny," he said, closing his office door, "I need to show you something and I need you to stay calm." He turned his laptop around. It was a recording, audio only, dated 3 weeks before my father's death, time-stamped at 9:47 p.m. "This is Walter Kessler," my father's voice said, tired but clear. "Harlan, I want this on record because I don't trust what's about to happen. My daughter Renata and her husband Cole have been asking me to sign new paperwork, telling me it's tax restructuring. I looked at it tonight. It's not restructuring. It's a new will, 90% to Renata, and a durable power of attorney that hands Cole control of the company accounts starting immediately. I haven't signed either. I want you to have this recording in case anything happens to me, or in case a document shows up with my signature on it that I don't remember signing." The room went silent except for the hum of the AC. "Your father came to me the next morning," Voss said quietly. "We drew up a real will together, the 60-40 split you heard at the reading. He wanted you to have more, Danny, honestly, but he was worried a sudden change would look suspicious if Renata contested it. He was trying to protect the estate from exactly what happened next. Which was..." Voss slid a second document across the desk, the one Renata had produced independently at the reading, claiming it was an update Dad had filed with a notary in Hilton Head. 95% to her. The signature on it was close. Too close. "A forensic document examiner confirmed it this morning," Voss said. "The signature was traced from an old contract page. Probably scanned, printed, signed over. Whoever did it was careful. But your father's real signature has a hitch on the K from an old fishing injury. This one doesn't. I want to tell you I felt triumphant. I didn't. I felt sick, sitting in a leather chair with my father's voice still hanging in the room, understanding that his last weeks alive had been spent protecting his estate from his own daughter. We didn't go to the police immediately. Voss insisted on doing it right. A forensic affidavit, a formal probate objection, a subpoena for the notary in Hilton Head, who turned out not to exist under the license number on the document. Cole had forged not just the signature but the notarization. Renata's lawyer tried to argue the recording was inadmissible, taken without consent in a two-party consent state. Voss had already thought of that. Georgia requires only one party's consent to record a call, and my father had been the one speaking into his own recorder, alone in his office, dictating a memo to his attorney. Perfectly legal. Perfectly devastating. The forged will was thrown out in probate court by October. Cole was charged with forgery and elder financial exploitation. My father wasn't legally incapacitated, but the DA's office decided the elder exploitation statute fit the pattern of coercion well enough to charge it alongside straight forgery. Renata claimed she hadn't known Cole altered anything, that she'd simply presented what he gave her. Maybe that was true. I'll never fully know. But ignorance didn't return the 11 months she'd spent trying to lock me out of the company, freezing accounts, quietly transferring inventory out of the Coffee Bluff warehouse before the will was even probated. The original 60-40 split stood. I used my share to buy Renata out of her stake in the marina operations entirely, not out of spite, but because I couldn't run a business with someone who'd tried to erase me from our father's last wishes. He kept the beach house. I kept the water. Sometimes I still drive to that warehouse at night, park where Dad used to park, and think about a 73-year-old man sitting alone in his office, scared enough of his own daughter that he dictated a memo to a recorder just to make sure the truth would survive him. He was right not to trust the paper. He was right to trust his voice. That's the only inheritance that mattered in the end, not the 40 million, but the fact that he'd fought quietly and carefully from beyond the grave to make sure I knew the truth.